All right, guys, the much anticipated arrival of the portals are here. So we're gonna go put them to the test. Let's go take a look. Hey everybody, it's Bell with X's 4x4 and we build badass 4x4s. And today is the day that I've been waiting for a long time.
That's what we've been waiting for!
It's what we wanted all along!
Almost a year I've been waiting for this day to come. And that is the Bronco Portals from 74 Weld have touched down here in New Braunfels at the shop. Before we get to installing them though, I'm gonna break down some of the differences between them and Brand X portal and what we've done to the Bronco in preparation for the install. Let me start with what we've done to prepare for the install. Some of you have seen the Bronco before and you remember what we did to the suspension, but for those that don't, we were running a Baja Kits pre-runner style suspension with Fox 2.5-inch DSCs and E-Click. I can say that this has been a great riding suspension. It has performed really, really well off-road. The only thing that we lacked was some ground clearance in the places that we really wanted ground clearance, and that's what this is going to provide. But back to the suspension that was on it. We had the Fox 2.5-inch DSCs. We did a lot of work with those on spring rates, and I feel like we finally got them dialed in. The E-Click rode exceptionally well off-road. We really, really enjoyed it, especially when we were going fast. But the downsides were we had to add 2-inch spacers to the rear in order to get somewhat close to the front, and we weren't as wide as the front, but that's not necessarily a bad thing either. We were running Icon Rebound Pros. I believe the back spacing was 4.65 on them. Overall, it was sitting out pretty wide. We also took a height measurement on the Bronco, which we're going to do a comparison. We actually have a stock Wild Track in the shop today getting some amp research steps on it. So in a little bit, we're gonna lower that Bronco down. We're gonna take some measurements so we can compare what a stock Wild Track Bronco is compared to my Bronco. So while Jesse's wrapping up the portal install on my Bronco, I'm gonna take some measurements off this two-door stock Wild Track Bronco. They're running the exact same suspension we're putting back on mine right now. Just wanna get a real true to height measurement of the stock features. Check this real quick. I'm gonna need my cameraman's assistant while I hold the level. He'll read the measurement off for us, 51 3/4. Now we're gonna be running a different offset wheel and tire altogether, so our height difference will change, and I was gonna do an outside of tire measurement, but since we're gonna be running such a different offset and a wider tire to begin with, it really doesn't matter. You know what, let's go ahead and take that measurement anyways. I'll put this down here and throw some tape on the ground, and we'll do the measurement in a minute. Here we go. Let me back up, take the measurement. Where'd Alan go? Come here, Alan. You can go ahead and take it out too. We're at 78 inches outside of the tire to outside of tire. That'll give us the difference between what you would be running with a completely bone stock Bronco versus what we're gonna be setting up with portals with a plus 25 offset and a 38-13-50-17 tire. I'm gonna get out of Jesse's way, let him get back to putting the portals on, see where this ends up. I don't know if you can tell or not, we'll get in there in a minute, but it is running the same suspension as the two-door Bronco. The internal bypass Fox coilovers that come on the Wild Tracks from the factory. I have a set here, and that's what we're gonna be putting on in place of the Baja Kit. Great day to be comparing what these two vehicles look like, one with portals and one with stock. I say stock suspension. I will add that we aren't completely going back to stock. Because we did lockouts right here in our upper control arms when we built this bumper, we built lockouts into it. So because of that, we had to add adjustable upper control arms, which we'll be using Icon adjustable upper control arms. Also be adding a set to the rear lowers so that we can just get rid of all the Baja Kit stuff. The reason we like using the Icon stuff is because you can actually adjust it in place. You don't have to pull the control arms out, make your adjustments, pull them back in. You don't have to keep doing that when you're doing your alignment. That can be a pain in the butt. So we're trying to mitigate as much of that as possible by using the Icon stuff. And it's pretty solid. They're billet aluminum arms. They're pretty awesome. That really is the only thing in the front end that's going to be different than stock Wild Track. But for all intents and purposes, it's not that big of a deal. In the rear, we are gonna be doing something very special. I'll touch on that in a minute, but it's so special, we're gonna make our own video on that one. Okay, so what is the difference between the 74 Weld portals and Brand X? So as you can see right here, this 74 Weld portal is basically a work of art. It's all machined aluminum. It's been anodized. It's beautiful. I mean, you can tell that the guys at 74 Weld just continue to put out amazing pieces of work. And I mean, it all shows in their product, right? They are continually pushing the envelope here and making revisions to make these better all the time. So this isn't a one and done deal. They just keep fine tuning these things. I think this is pretty much where everything's going to stay, though. The only thing that you won't see today is I believe that they have developed some steering upgrade for this that isn't in our kit today, but I'm sure we'll be putting it on later. For now, we're just going to be using the Ford Performance tire rods in conjunction with the 74 weld Haas 3 steering rack or Ford Performance steering rack that's in here now. So this is all, as you can see, it's very robust. It's beefy, it's beautiful. And what it's replacing is this steering knuckle right here. Now, if you guys were to go look at Brand X, you can tell that their portal, which I think costs more than this too, which is crazy, or even it may even be the same price, but it's crazy when you kind of consider what you're getting. The Brand X portal is going to bolt onto the steering knuckle right here rather than replace it. And if you look at these steering knuckles on these things, they're hollow. And they're hollow for manufacturing purposes, but probably more so for weight reduction and trying to meet EPA regulations, stuff like that on fuel economy.
That's right, Ron.
When I look at that and I think, okay, I'm gonna bolt on a portal this thing and then a real heavy tire and wheel combo on here, that's a lot of leverage going against this hollow section of this stock steering knuckle. And that's not how I roll. I mean, I'm pretty tough on stuff. I've proven before that, you know, the guys at 74 were building heavy duty stuff because I haven't broke their stuff yet. I really don't think that I can break this either. I'll try, but I don't think I'm going to. I just can't imagine that you spend that much money to bolt something onto this stock steering knuckle. That thing's a piece of junk, let's be honest. And here's your stock unit bearing. I mean, compare these two unit bearings to each other, and you're getting a hell of an upgrade just in the unit bearing alone. But this really the only reason I had that up here was just because I pulled it off the steering knuckle and I wanted you guys to see the steering knuckle for what it is. But I mean, that's a great observation as well. The unit bearing is even better. So that pretty much covers the portal beefiness that we're getting with the 74 weld. And for those that haven't really seen any of the videos leading up to this yet, where we talk about what is going on in the portal, you can check out 74 weld and they do a really good job of explaining it. So basically what we're gonna do here is we're gonna mount this in place, upper control arm, lower control arm. Input shaft from the front stock axle is gonna go in right here. You're gonna go through some gear reduction inside this housing, okay? And then you're gonna come out here into this unit bearing. That's gonna be your new wheel mounting surface, right? Your tie rod's gonna bolt in right here, and you're gonna gain quite a bit of lift height. I believe it's 3.88 inches, same as the portal axles on the Jeeps. Same thing in the rear. This guy right here is gonna bolt into the rear axle housing where a stock axle would. There's gonna be bolts right here, and these will stab into the axle housing itself. There will be an axle shaft that goes inside of here. It'll have a snap ring. We'll pre-assemble that before we get it in there, but basically a long axle shaft will be sticking out here. And that'll just stab into the axle, these 4 bolts, boom. And then you'll put your brakes on. You can literally take your stock Bronco, bolt these up to it, and gain 3.8 inches of lift. You'll be able to run 37s. I'm gonna run 38s, so you could probably run 40s. I don't know, there's a bunch of different combinations, ideas you can do. You can put in aftermarket fenders on like I did. You could maybe, depending on what fenders you have, you may be able to put a perch collar in these. We've done it for some guys running without portals. I've covered what I want to cover for right now. I'm going to get out of the way and I'm going to let Jesse attack the Bronco and get these portals going. I'm going to move to the back and start doing some work on the rear axle for the other video. And then hopefully by the time I get done back there, Jesse's ready to do the rear install. So let me get out of his way and you guys can watch him work. Now that we've taken measurements off of a stock 2-door wild track, which is basically the same as, you know, every other Bronco out there. Now we're going to take measurements off of the Bronco. Now that it has the 74 weld portals installed, it's got the 38-inch trail grapplers, and it's got the plus 25 offset wheels from Raceline. Now we're gonna do comparison. We're gonna do a height measurement off of it. We're gonna do a width measurement, just like we did on that little 2-door. Alan is gonna help me do those measurements right now. We'll do a little subtraction and see what we come up with. There you go, sir. Try to pretend like you've never done this before, ever, in the last 5 minutes. Don't be too excited, Alan. Okay, we're right around 56 and 1/8 of an inch. Write that down over here.
15 buses.
We actually did that already. Now we're gonna back the Bronco up and we're gonna take a measurement of our tape that we have already put down on the floor, and we'll measure outside of the tape to outside of the tape. Let me back up. All right, Alan, to the outside of the tape, please. And we are right at 88 3/4 of an inch. So that'll give us a net difference on width. Overall, we're 10 3/4 inches wider than we were before. Not too bad. And then as far as height goes, we are 4 3/8 taller than we were before. So that's gonna wrap up our comparison. We're sitting about 4 3/8 of an inch taller than we were before, which is not bad. I thought it was actually gonna be more than that, but since we put the factory shocks on there, the 38-inch trail grapplers, the portals, we're only sitting 4 3/8 of an inch taller, not bad. But what we did gain the most in was the ground clearance underneath the Bronco, which is what we were shooting for. Now we can actually go off-road without worrying about stuff getting, banged up on the diff, front or rear. Overall, we're only about 10 3/4 inches wider than we were before, or at least compared to that of a stock Wild Track. I think the Raptor is still a little bit wider than this, but it's not gonna have nearly the amount of capability for rock crawling that this one does in regards to ground clearance especially. So we're gonna pack up, we're gonna go take this thing on the trails and see what happens next. Let's go. The canyon. You're good.
That's why the armor's there.
Okay, great. What? All right, guys, we just unloaded the Bronco here at the shop, and we have had a successful test run. We've done lots of driving on the road, hundreds, if not 1,000+ miles of driving on the road. We've done some pretty good off-roading. I mean, we didn't get as crazy as I wanted to, but we took what we could get, and the Bronco performed flawlessly. It's more capable than it was before, and I really think these platforms are underrated for what they can do once you work out the weak points. And that's one of the things that we did with the 74 rack and the portals. Between those two right there, we have built an amazing off-road machine. The best part of it is the OEM ride quality that you get, whether you're on-road or off-road. It's still super plush either way. I'm looking forward to building more of these for you guys. Whether you have a Jeep, 4Runner, Tacoma, something like that, or you got a Bronco, we can now put the 74-well portals on those. Don't forget, guys, if you do have a Bronco, that steering rack is a must, especially if you're going this route. The only thing left that we're gonna do is maybe get some Heim steering and try out the Heim steering that 74 sent the components for. But other than that, I'm super happy with this, and I know you guys will too. So when you guys are ready for portals, hit us up, and for more videos on off-roading and other cool stuff, click here.